So surf fishing isn't always just about casting a line out, soaking bait, and waiting for those fish to come by. If you're targeting species like bluefish or speckled trout, Spanish mackerel, jack, maybe even tarpon, you might want to take more of a hunting approach for those species in order to get the most success. And one of the best ways that I found to catch those types of predator species on the beach is to use artificial lures. And one of my favorite types of artificial lures, and the one we're going to talk about in this video, is the metal casting jig. What's going on, y'all? Tyler here with Tight Lines and High Tides. If this is the first video you're seeing on my channel, welcome. Glad to have you here. My goal is to impart as much valuable information to you as I can so you can enjoy the sport that much more. And if you're already a subscriber to the channel, welcome back. So first off, what do I mean by metal casting jig? This is an example of one that I use. I've been using out here on the beach recently. It's one by Blue Water Candy, and it's called the Thingamajig. Basically, though, all of the casting jigs that we're going to be talking about are metal. Usually, there are some sort of holographic colors and stuff like that that resemble bait fish, and you'll notice they'll come in a lot of different general shapes, but one common characteristic is they're very slim, they're very aerodynamic, and that is because they're meant to be cast out a long way and then work back in. And the shapes that they have, number one, try to resemble as much as they can the shape and the profile of bait fish, but also they have different angles and different types of shapes to cause different types of movement in the water, whether that be some fluttering, some wobbling, stuff like that, as they're working their way through the water column. One thing, though, you'll notice on a lot of the metal casting jigs is they'll come with pre-rigged a treble hook on the back. And I'll put a link to another video that I have on swapping these guys out, but one of the very first things I generally do with these metal casting jigs is I take that treble hook off and I replace it with an inline single hook. Quick summary on why I do that is, number one, I think that they're overall better quality hooks. Whenever I do get a strike, I generally have better hookups and I land more fish with this inline single hook. Also, it's safer to the fish, it's safer to the angler, so there's less pointy things to damage the fish, and also because there's fewer hooks, there's fewer things to remove from the fish to cause damage to the fish, and you're handling the fish a lot less in those catch and release situations. So just a little tip that I like to do, but like I said, I'll put a link in this video on how I go and swap out these treble hooks with the inline single hook. So I'll take this opportunity to go over a few more of the jigs that I like to pack in my tackle box. Like I already mentioned, this is the Blue Water Candy Thingamajig, but I have a few more that I've been wanting to try out, and I'll show them to you here. Clark Spoon's a fantastic lure company. They make a whole lot of different lures and jigs and spoons. This is one of their casting jig series. I believe they call this the Pogie profile, but you'll see it a wider profile, kind of that minnow shape, but you'll see it's still very narrow and aerodynamic. They have a number of different sizes in this one. This one in particular is the 1 ounce spoon, so I think that's a pretty good weight for a lot of these casting jigs. And in general, I'm anywhere between 3/4 ounce on the low end for these, all the way up to about 2 ounces. And the other thing you'll notice is some of them, like this Clark Spoon, measures it in ounces, and many of the other ones are in grams. So kind of moving on down, this is one by Shimano. It's called the Currentsniper. It's in the 42 gram size. And again, it comes with a treble hook. So like I recommended earlier, I'll be swapping that treble hook out with a inline single hook. Moving on down, this is one I picked up from my tackle shop over in town. This one's called it's from Tsunami, and it's called the Forktail Jig. I'm sorry, the Forktail Jig. And again, I think this is about the 42 or so gram size. The cool thing about this one, it already comes rigged up with the inline single hook, so no need to swap out that treble hook for this one. But I think this one's got some really cool colors and designs. You can see the sort of holographic nature to it. It's got the gold, silvers, and the greens. Really cool looking lure, big eyes. I think it has a really good action in the water. And then on for, I think probably one of the most, especially when I look on forums and searching for different types of casting jigs for salt water. This one's the Jig Para, and it's the 50-gram size. And like I said, when you search online for casting jigs, one of the first things that a lot of anglers that are out there and the forums recommend is the Jig Para. They have like the micro jig sections, which I'll have another video all about the micro jigs, and then the standard jig, which is what I'm holding here. Like I said, this is 50-gram size. And one of the cool things about this one, beyond the cool colors and the pinks and the silvers and the blue, really cool profile, big eyes, but it comes rigged with an assist hook on the front. I think really to increase your chances of hookups there. So whether a fish is going to come bite it from the back, behind, or the side, you'll have opportunities to hook up there. Now, I will say, I've asked about these assist hooks on a lot of the forums, and what I've noticed is some people actually like to remove the assist hook when they're using it for a casting style jig, and they'll actually put it back whenever they're using it more in that vertical jigging style, which is one of the things that these Jig Paras are used for. You can use it for more of the vertical jigging style jig, and that's probably the case for all of these casting jigs I'm talking about. They can really dual purpose, a lot of versatility in these jigs. But on the beach, we're casting them. I'm going to leave the assist hook on there, and I'll let you know if I don't like it or if I get too many snags on my line when I'm casting it out. If you have any experience with this, and just let me know what you think in the comments on whether or not you like to use or leave this assist hook on there. Just let me know in the comments. Also, I gave you some really good examples here of what I chose to go after with my set of casting jigs. Let me know in the comments if there are other sizes, other styles, other profiles that you really like to use as it relates to these casting jigs. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you like to use on the beach. All right, so let's talk about how I like to rig up the casting jig for surf fishing. First off, with the knot. So everybody's going to have their own opinion on what knot to use. I like to use the loop knot. I think it's a pretty simple knot. I like the extra mobility it gives me and letting that lure have a little bit more free play versus the knot being cinched down right on to this ring here. But the important thing for any knot is that you're comfortable tying it. Make sure you pick a knot that you're comfortable with. We don't want knot failures, so more important is it than what type of knot, it's the knot that you're most comfortable with. But that being said, I chose the loop knot. It's my preference. Let me know in the comments what type of knot you like to use when fishing for, when using casting jigs out on the beach. I'd love to hear your opinion on this. As for the leader line, I'm going after sort of those more toothy critters, those bigger predator fish. So I'm using a 30-pound fluorocarbon leader. I'll say this, expect to lose some lures. Expect to get bit off from time to time. Even with nice high quality fluorocarbon leader, those toothy fish will still bite through this. You're going to be likely to lose a few of these. If you fish enough, you're going to lose some lures from those critters. I don't like to use wire leader. I just feel like it ruins the presentation, and it's just not my style. So I take the risk and I use a fluorocarbon leader, and just recognize that I'll probably lose a jig from time to time. And then I tie on the fluorocarbon to my braid here using an FG knot. So really strong knot, really popular. I think the guys at Salt Strong talk about it a lot. It's they're one of their most favorite knots. Again, let me know in the comment what you think about the best leader to line knot for braid to fluorocarbon leader. All right, moving on to the the rod setup. So I'm a rod builder, so I have a custom rod that I built here. This is pretty much my rod that I use out on the beach, and sort of like for those larger spoons and those larger jigs, this is the rod that I use. It's a 8-foot rod. I wanted something long enough to get me some distance. I needed something that would handle anything from the 3/4 ounce to the 2 ounce range, so that's why I picked the lure rating that I have here. I'm usually not casting anything over about 30-pound braid, so that's why I have it rated to a 15 to 30-pound braid line. And then the 8-foot lets me kind of reach out as a pretty good ways out. Now, you can go lighter, you can go shorter, you can go longer. The important thing is marry up the size of the rod with your lure rating, the lure rating of your rod with the size of the lures that you're going to be casting. That gives you the best performance on the cast, and that's really what you want to do. You want to be able to cast it a lot, you want to cast long distance, you want to cover a lot of ground, so pick the best pair for the lure rating, so pick the lures for the rod that you're casting with. Yeah, and then as far as reel goes, I love my Shimano's. This is the Shimano Stratic 5000 XG. Great reel that is packed on with some 30-pound Power Pro braid. All right, so let me show you how to use this in the water and some of the different techniques that I like to use the jigs out on the beach. All right, let's go. One of the reasons I really like to use these particular jigs out on the beach is because they cast so well. They're aerodynamic, they're weighted just right, and you can really launch them out of good ways, even on these kind of more stiff wind days. So right now I've got probably a east to west wind that's more along the lines of like 8 to 10 miles per hour. So a lot of your artificial lure fishing kind of would not work very well on days like today, because it'd be hard to get those lures out into the water. But not so the case with these casting jigs. So again, with my blue water candy thingamajig, I'm just going to cast it out. And you know, a lot of different approaches that people take when surf fishing. Like I said, there's troughs that run parallel with the beachfront. There's generally 2 of them. I like to cast at a slight diagonal. That way I can work longer distance through those troughs where those predator fish are hanging out, searching for bait and stuff like that. So I'm just going to cast it out a long ways, as far as I can, and I'm going to work it back in. The first way I'm going to work it in is just using a quick retrieve method. And so whenever I do that, the jig's going to wobble through the water, kind of mimicking a scurrying bait fish. And so maybe I can get like a reactionary strike as that bait fish is cruising through the water. So casting it out, you can see it goes a long ways, lands, and then I'm just going to do a cast retrieve back, keeping my rod tip up, and a quick retrieve. All right, that's method number 1. And I'll be honest, that's probably the most common method that I use. Another way that I like to use this lure is, again, casting it out, but I'm gonna jig it on the bottom a little bit. So I'm gonna pop it up and I'm gonna let it fall down, and I'm gonna do that quite a bit. And what that is doing is making that lure pop up in the water column, and I'm using the shape of the jig to let it flutter back down. But you'll notice I'm still doing it at a pretty quick pace. So I'm popping it up, letting it fall back down, popping it up, letting it fall back down, popping it up, down. And I'll do that all the way back in. It's another really good way to work this lure, kind of to take advantage of its shape, almost kind of mirroring what we would have done if you're using these for like vertical jigging purposes. I can also just kind of bounce it, slower retrieve, and bounce it on the bottom. Cast it out, again, a long ways. I'll do a little bit slower, and I'm just going to bump it. Bump, smaller bumps, reeling it in. Again, rod tip is up, bumping it across the bottom. All right. So those are 3 major ways that I like to retrieve my lures. All the ones that I showed you today can be worked in the same way. Really versatile lure, and I really highly recommend it. Be sure to pick yourself up some at your local tackle shop or online. I will be sure to leave a link in the description box, so make sure you check the description in the bottom. I'll leave you links to all of these different lures. That way you can pick some up yourself. If you want to know anything about my custom rods, please let me know. I'll give you all the details that you want to know on this one. And until next time, tight lines, y'all.